Let's talk about supplements, shall we? So one of the misconceptions that I feel like a lot of people have about utilizing your life as your medicine, and maybe even my message, is that supplements are bad. You'll never use supplements. If you even use an herb, you're not doing it right. And none of those are true. So the truth is that when I got into medicine, I had the traditional way of practicing because that's how you're educated. And what I started realizing was that the more people relied on supplements, the less they actually changed their life. And when they changed their life, they removed the necessity of the supplements. And so there's a lot to go into the conversation on supplements. It's not that I'm inherently against supplements. So when I looked into them on my own, there were a lot of problems. Some of those being, contamination within the products. Some of the products weren't what they sold. Some of the products had 400 times the amount in them, and which was a problem specifically with things like vitamin D or things that directly affect hormones. Then there was a conversation that I went down into utilizing individual constituents without actually understanding the implications biologically, biochemically, physiologically as a whole person, not just as an isolated pathway of, a liver pathway or something else, but what it actually does to the entire body, and then how it indirectly communicates with things like immune cells, hormones, lots of different things. So what we do with supplements is we act like we know a lot more about them than we actually do, and we're actually practicing on people utilizing these compounds. And there's also the conversation about overusing herbal medicine or misusing herbal medicine, or not even utilizing herbal medicine to the degree of what it can do. We're using it to, again, chase symptoms, suppress symptoms, instead of doing what even the herbs were designed to do. So all of these things go into when I talk about supplements. It's not me coming from this standpoint of never using supplements or just being against them to be against something. There was a period of time where I was in a relationship with somebody who kind of made it come across that way. But again, if I'm not saying it, listen to what I'm actually saying. And my practice is something very different than what other people utilizing my words or my work actually looks like. They were never part of my practice. So if you're not me and you're utilizing my words and then using it again to go against supplements or go against something else, that's not true, because it's not me. And so within my practice, what generally started happening was people came to get off of supplements. And what I saw was that the more severe the symptoms were, the more severe the presentation was, the less the person could even handle or tolerate symptoms. The other issue I came across was that I could just get a list of the supplements a person was on, and I could tell you exactly what they were diagnosed with, or if they weren't working with a practitioner, I could tell you what they were afraid that they had just by looking at the supplements they were taking. And that was a huge red flag for me, because again, we're still utilizing the same formula as the allopathic model, but we're just doing it green with supplementation. So you could say that we're taking a step in the right direction, but then there's a bigger conversation to be had even with that. And that's not even on the level of purity and transparency within the supplementation Wild West, right? So the other part to supplementation that a lot of people don't take into consideration is the fact that it keeps people from changing. And this was a hard pill to swallow, pun intended, right? When I was really working on people with what they call terminal illnesses, that had gone to everybody and then come to me to change their life. And they were, of course, loaded up on supplements. Some of them loaded up on pharmaceuticals and supplements. And what you would see is the more they had on board, the less they were changing the thing that was causing why they needed to change. And so the best example is take somebody that's in what we would call a quote-unquote toxic relationship. There are multiple physiological changes that happen within that person. But say a practitioner that only works in immunology just looked at them and called them an autoimmune case. And even a well-meaning practitioner would not, they would manage the symptoms and even the system, right? But they wouldn't go those steps further into the relationship dynamics and the conversation that actually needs to be had with regards to home life, self-concept, boundaries, all of those different elements within the individual. And so what ends up happening is if you make a person comfortable in a toxic environment, you perpetuate the problem. And that's a very important component to this conversation. And so again, when I come in and talk about how you don't need supplements to heal, it's not out of me having no experience with supplementation, or me not having any experience with utilizing supplements, or even with me thinking that supplements are wrong and bad. I'm very selective with the supplements that I would ever use with even any of my previous patients, and very selective on how I use them and how I dose them. We didn't do it in a standard typical way, because the body doesn't even dose that way. And so there's my medical practice fueled the information I'm giving on social media, which is very different than a lot of people that utilize social media to pull people into a practice. So mine was flip-flopped. I had a practice, and the information I was pulling was from my practice. And it's very important to know that, because you can look at the simplicity of these little squares, or a 3-minute video, or even a 10-minute video, or even those hour videos I try to give to you, and still not have even a portion of everything that came into the understanding that creates the language that I am giving on this platform. So what I'm trying to do is educate you, but it's never this like I'm against supplements. Remember, I did that video a while back talking about my history of even, I came out of the allopathic model into the integrative and functional model, into the naturopathic, into the purest of the naturopathic, and then into this world where I just wanted truth, bare bones truth. And that ultimately pushed me to even be like, do we need supplements? What are we even doing? How much do we even know? And when you give a person, either an herb or an individual constituent supplement, do we even know the depths of all the changes? And then the other portion of that conversation is, if they have to have that forever, how have we solved a problem? We've just created another dependency. And so to me, true health was freedom from anything made by man. And that's not to say those things are bad or even wrong. It's just to say that the body does not need those in order to be well. And so that's what I got to start seeing within my practice. And then I would give my patients, because it was their body, it was their life we were dealing with. And so when I was working with them, it wasn't nobody gets any supplements. It was, okay, so this is the medicine. This is the manipulation. What version of these two things can we put into your life until you can make the changes? But there was never this is your solution and the solution is the supplement. It was always the honesty of, we need you to change these things. These are Band-Aids. These are manipulation-based therapeutics utilizing a supplement. And it's your life, and you can do with it however you want. On this platform, because of my understanding of everything, I can go down to the bare minimum, because that was the truth that I ultimately found. So me being able to say that you can heal without any of it is not me saying that if you choose not to, that you're wrong. It's just saying, I want you to know you had the option, because that's the option I needed when I was faced with multiple autoimmune conditions, and I was a college student and didn't have the funds to go and buy all the tinctures and do all the cleanses and the chelation and the IV therapy and the ozone therapy and all of that stuff. And then I got into school and I got certified in all of it, including the IVs, including the lasers, all of those things, to ultimately come back to ground zero and be like, the body heals without all of it. Of course it does. That's the grace and that's the beauty. So that's a brief introduction into the tiny, not tiny, it's a gigantic conversation that is supplementation. So it's not that I'm against them. It's not that you're wrong if you take them. It's just that I found that the body didn't ever require them in order to be well. And what I actually found was, when you found your wellness without them, the wellness held, because you actually had to make the changes. And then if you wanted to play with supplementation, then we had the conversation on purity, ethics, all of those different things that come into the world of supplementation.